What's going on, guys? We have TMNT Journeys number 4, and just to kind of give us a little bit of backstory as to what's going on up to this point, Donnie, along with Raph and Casey, have brought back a like an armored vehicle that they found in the subway. Mikey discovered a hospital that caters pretty much specifically to like superheroes, and he has been let loose. And there has been an invasion of Utrums. We don't know necessarily whether they are for good or for bad. My guess is that they are for evil purposes, being that they kind of fused themselves to the ocean floor when they came in. It was a fairly aggressive move. So we'll just continue on from there. And yeah, so issue number 4. And we're going to start off. We have Leonardo over here. He's training. He's the only one of the brothers that kind of was just doing his own thing back at the lair. He's setting up some snowmen. He's kind of reminiscing about how Shadow, Casey and April's stepdaughter, has grown up so much, and how she used to love helping Leo set up all the snowmen. And then he just gets to work. He picks up his swords and just starts slicing and dicing all of them. See, he's still in peak condition here. At least with how he's moving. Obviously, they're not fighting back. But yeah, he finishes off with slicing the head of a snowman shredder before he's like, okay, time to call it quits here. And let's go back inside and warm up. And just as he's about to do that, he hears what sounds like a truck pulling up to the place. And he sees the armored vehicle with Raph, Donnie, and Casey all in. And he's like, well, let's go see what's going on here. And so he makes his way on down. And he's like, hey, what's up, guys? And these three are they're all talking about aliens and stuff like that. And they're trying to fill Leo in on what's going on. Now, I do find it pretty hard to believe that Leo has absolutely no idea what's going on. Now, he said he was training, and that's why, he was just really focused. But he heard a truck pulling up, but he doesn't hear all the commotion going on. I can forgive. Maybe he didn't see the space, the base coming in and coming over to the ocean or anything like that. But certainly he's got to hear all sorts of aircraft that's going around, because as we'll see here in a second, there's all sorts of like news helicopters. They're talking about how there's a no-fly policy that is being strictly guarded by jets and stuff like that. So he's not hearing any of this. He's not hearing all the city folk down below, screaming, yelling, doing all sorts of stuff that we saw in the previous issue when these three brought the armored vehicle out of the subway. There was a lot of panic and chaos, and Leo heard none of this. I do find that kind of hard to believe, even with him being, distracted by making the snowman and being in his own thoughts and things like that. I have a hard time buying that one. But needless to say, they decide to, regroup and see what's being covered on the TV. And we see that Shadow and Splinter are also doing that. And they have a house guest, Steve, who is talking with Joe. Steve and Joe are former superheroes. They have since retired, and Steve is trying to talk to Joe about maybe coming out of retirement to kind of deal with the situation. But Joe is saying, you know what, it's probably best that we just stay retired. This is a young man's game. We're old. We're out of it. We'll probably just get in the way, maybe worse. Why don't we just stay out of it? Steve's a little disappointed. Shadow kind of echoes what Joe just said, hey, you're retired. Just why don't you come over here and see what's going on? And Steve's like, okay, fine. I'll at least stay informed. And we're seeing the video coverage, and we see our little island base here. And they're talking about, the no-fly zone and stuff like that, how it's being strictly maintained, and the military's like willing to shoot helicopters and other aircraft out of the sky that get too close. But there is no activity going on. We don't see anybody here. And The news reporter is like kind of going a little paranoid here and even talking about these supers here. And they're like, well, we don't truly know where they come from. So kind of speculating that maybe even they're aliens and stuff like that. So a little bit of hysteria going on here. A lot of confusion, things like that. We see everybody back with the turtles as they're watching the TV, and even April has joined. I will say it's a little frustrating that we still don't know whether or not April is pregnant here. We saw it being alluded to that in the previous issue when she was talking with Shadow, that she's not in the highest of spirits. Now, they were trying to figure out whether or not April is pregnant, and I think what we're simply going to get out of her disappointment was the appointment needed rescheduling due to all the chaos. I think that's what we're getting, but it was trying to kind of allude to not pregnant. But we don't have any definitive answers, and we're not going to get any in this issue. And I'm like, why can't we hear anything on that one? But again, nitpicky stuff, because that's not really important at this particular moment. But yeah, everybody's, so Donnie's talking about how he still can't get through to Splinter, and Leo's like, well, due to all these things, the phone lines are probably overloaded, so try again later, hopefully we can get through. And Mikey, he's over here like, I think I know those, some of those supers, and Raph's starting to get a little annoyed. He's like, you know what, if you don't shut up about that damn hospital, I'm going to send you back to it. And so they're just kind of watching in and speculating, and suddenly some activity starts to happen that we see on the TV. And we see a big door opens up, and what they're calling a tug, because this was kind of escorting the base down to the water, is now popping up, and it is pulling a space shuttle. And we find out that this is the U.S. Defiant, which I guess has been missing for a couple weeks here. So we're seeing this resurface. And it is being led over to what they say is the plaza of the UN. And I'm just going to take their word for it. I don't know really the layout of New York or anything. So I'll take their word on it that that's what it is. And the tug lands right next to the shuttle. And the crowd starts to get closer, and so crowd control starts becoming a factor. But then the tug door opens, some stairs come out, and the Defiant crew is also there. And everybody's real happy to see them. They give them a little wave and stuff and said, hey, we got some friends we'd like you to meet. And here we have the Utrums, who are all on their two-legged mechanical legs that they'll sometimes use. Now everybody is like real tense right now. It's all quiet. Everybody's not sure what to think. I don't know if this movie exists in this universe, but you got to be thinking kind of Mars Attacks kind of thing, where you're like, are these guys going to be good for bad? What's going on here? And so one of them starts coming down the stairs. Everything's getting real tense. But then this one trips down the stairs and falls on their face. Now, this breaks the tension a little bit. Everybody's, seeing that the Utrum's okay, as the Defiant crew members tend to it. And this breaks the tension. Everybody's laughing and clapping. And I do want to bring to point here what one of the media commentators says. I mean, how much do we have to fear from these invaders when their leader is such a klutz? And I think that is very much a deliberate thing, and I'll talk more about that later. Meanwhile, we cut over and we see 6 turtles lined up against, I'll just spoil it now, this is Karai. And so she's over here training. Now we know that this is all fake because there are not 6 turtles, there's only the 4. And so we see that she's fighting with them and just straight up murdering them. Like this one with Leo, it's hard to see on my camera here, but he's getting stabbed, looks like in the throat by an arrow. We get Another one being completely choked out by a chain. This one over here gets its neck broken. And so on and so forth. You get the idea. She's killing all of them. And then by the end of it, she presses a little button. This ends the simulation, and we see that there's Foot Clan. Now, I do have a little bit of a problem with this. I don't like where leaders are just arbitrarily killing their members. For like this is a training exercise. Like, what other clan member would want to participate in this? That's fucking stupid. You're just thinning your numbers because reasons. That's really bad. Like one of them even catches a sword right through the chest. Like, that's a pretty brutal way to deal with your people. So I've never liked that. Now, if this was like a form of punishment, think like Darth Vader, when he kills his men, it's because they failed in some spectacular way. That's more forgivable. He's not just arbitrarily killing them just for reasons. So that is always a bother to me. But yeah, she takes off her mask, and this is where we get the reveal that it's Karai. And then this member over here says, or this is Yanada. It's basically Canada with a Y in the beginning. So good luck to whoever else wants to try that one. But he's bringing footage of the Outram invasion and said he has it recorded for Karai. So we are done with Karai for now. We catch up with Raph and Leo. They're making their way over to where the Outrams are because they have rapport with them, and Mikey's kind of curious, like, hey, I wonder if they remember me. They seem pretty friendly. But this gets cut short when Raph notices something's rippling in the water. He's like, okay, something's in the water. We need to get out of here right now. And sure enough, something emerges from the water. And we see it's that guy that I've been comparing to, basically like a beefed up honeycut. And that is where our story ends. This one's got some issues, some more minor than others. I think. So I'd say that the biggest issue would be Karai just killing her people. Next, being like Leo not understanding. I say that's less just because, well, it doesn't really affect too much, because they all are going to end up watching the news coverage anyway. So whether or not Leo knows ahead of time, it's not that big of a deal. And I definitely think, I said in the previous review, I think that the Outrams are here for more evil intent because of how just aggressive they were about just taking their base and fusing it with the earth. They're not asking for permission, they're just doing a thing. They're not trying to talk to the people first. Whether it's, they're setting up shop in the U.S. Area, so maybe want to talk with the world leaders of the U.S. To try and establish some sort of peaceful negotiation, or at least have some sort of temporary thing there. The fact that they fused it, that doesn't say anything good. I think that the Defiant crew are Outrams themselves. We've seen how they'll disguise themselves with human bodies. I believe that's how we first got introduced to the Outrams at the TCRI building. And also that quote that I read out from the news reporter about how, how could they be like dangerous and what could we have to fear when they're such a klutz, whether or not this was done on purpose, I don't know, but I don't think that, we should scoff at the Outrams. Of course, we all know of Krang and how dangerous he can be, and the Outrams can be both good and evil. So you never know which way we're going here. But I'm definitely leaning towards evil side. So and yeah, also the last little issue I had was April, like not that whole thing not being resolved, and that is very nitpicky. So That's what I would put at the very end of my issue. I would say that this is at least a good solid 8 out of 10. My issues aren't terribly big. My biggest issue being Karai just killing the foot for reasons of training. I'm like, you don't need to kill the members of your team just to train. That's really kind of stupid. And I don't take the Foot Clan as stupid. I think that they are to be feared and respected. So just for her to just kill members to train herself, that I just think that that's really dumb. So outside of that, it's pretty nitpicky stuff. So that's being my biggest issue, and that's why I would give it more of an 8 out of 10. But again, Journeys, very solid series. Apparently, it is a reprint. I did have one of you guys out there reach out to me and let me know that, and I thank you very much for clarifying that. That is kind of where I was leaning with that to begin with, but it is nice to get some more clarity as to what that is. So that's not going to deter me in any way. I'm going to continue to cover this. This has been interesting stories, and I would say that outside of the mainline comic series that we're getting, first with Jason Aaron and now with Gene, that this would be the next series I would recommend. And it's like right there with it. So, but that is all I have for today, guys. So until next time, take care and God bless.